Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Bricks and Bleachers podcast. All things Chicago Cubs in under 10 minutes. Cubs are back home this weekend after an early season West Coast road trip. We will recap that. Injuries are a big story all around the majors. Cubs are not immune to that. We've got the latest on who's out and for how long. And as always, a look around the league with our This and That segment. We are 3 weeks into the 2024 season, and I'd say the Cubs look pretty good so far. 11-7, second place in the National League Central, a half game behind Milwaukee. Cubs return to Wrigley Field this afternoon. After a 9-game road trip where they went 5-4, I said before the season Cubs and Diamondbacks would square off in the National League Championship Series. And if the 3 games this week at Arizona are an indication, that would be an amazing postseason series. Cubs were able to win 2 of those 3 games in Arizona. Probably should not have won on Monday, but they scored the win in 11 innings, and then the roles were reversed on Tuesday, where Arizona came back and stole one from the Cubs in 10 innings. Extra innings not necessary on Wednesday, but the Diamondbacks did make the 9th inning interesting. Cubs escaped with a 5-3 win. Cubs took 2 of 3 in Seattle. They only won 1 of 3 in San Diego, where they let an 8-0 lead slip away in the first game of that series. That's a tough way to start a lengthy road trip, but they bounced back well from that setback. Michael Busch, a big surprise so far for the Cubs this season, leading the team in batting average. He's batting over 300. He's smashed 6 home runs, including a 5-game home run streak that was snapped earlier this week. He looked good working his way up through the Dodgers organization. They just didn't have room for him on the major league roster. Cubs front office looks pretty smart for that offseason trade. Seiya Suzuki is off to a great start as well, picking up where he left off late last season. He's also batting over 300, and the pair have been driving in lots of runs. Cubs pitching not where you want it, but it's early. It's a small sample. Cubs starters among the lowest in the majors in innings pitched. In other words, the Cubs bullpen is getting a lot of work, and you know that is not what you want to see when it's still April. Issues began on opening day. To no fault of his own, Justin Steele strained a hamstring while fielding a ball in the 5th inning on opening day. He is throwing again. That's a positive. He's got a workout session or 2 under his belt. I think he threw a bullpen session a couple days ago as well. Team not expecting him ready to return until May. Jameson Taillon has not yet pitched this year for the Cubs. Back issue kept him out from Cactus League play. He was injured right before his spring training debut in early March. He has had a couple outings in the minors recently. He was activated from the injured list yesterday. We will see him starting for the Cubs this afternoon. Kyle Hendricks is an interesting story. Interesting is not always a positive, and sadly, that's where we are with Kyle Hendricks so far in 2024. He's really struggled to start this year. It's not the first time he's got off to a slow start, but hopefully he can get things corrected very soon, especially with 2 starters on the injured list. You'd hope to be able to lean on Hendricks in the interim. Worth noting, Shota Imanaga and Javier Assad both have really shined in their starts so far this year. I mentioned Seiya Suzuki has been off to a good start. That's true, but he's currently sidelined. He experienced some pain during a game in Seattle last weekend. He's on the injured list, diagnosed with an oblique strain. He's expected back in mid-May, so about a 4 or 5 week time on the shelf for Seiya Suzuki. Patrick Wisdom is back, returning this afternoon, activated from the injured list yesterday after sustaining a back strain early in spring training. He's been rehabbing with AAA Iowa the last couple of weeks. Miles Mastrobuoni sent back to Iowa as part of that move. And with Jameson Taillon being activated yesterday, the corresponding move there is to send Hayden Wesneski back to AAA Iowa. He started the season in Iowa, was only briefly with Chicago before being bumped back yesterday. I'm sure we'll see him again soon. A couple more injuries worth noting. The 60-day injured list is where you will find Julian Merriweather. He was shut down last week after some discomfort. They're calling it a rib stress fracture in the back. I'm not sure exactly what that is, but it sounds painful. He's out until at least early June, and that's a significant blow to the bullpen. Caleb Killian, a guy who the Cubs are really high on, he looked good until he, too, was injured during spring training, a shoulder strain. He will be out until at least July. Cubs and Marlins rained out yesterday. That game will be made up tomorrow as part of a split doubleheader. Lineups and more ahead of this afternoon's series opener. A 4-game set just ahead. News and notes from around Major League Baseball. It's our This and That segment. It's only April 19, but we've already seen one no-hitter. Ronel Blanco of the Houston Astros accomplishing that a couple of weeks ago against the Blue Jays in only his 8th career start. He's making it look so easy. Blanco actually began the year recording 44 outs before giving up his first hit. In the expansion era, that's going back to the early 1960s, that's never been done before to begin a season. 2 of the Boris 4 face off tonight out west. Jordan Montgomery and Blake Snell were highly touted free agents. And if this were 2023, it may be one of the best pitching matchups of the entire season. Don't know if that's going to be the case tonight. Both guys with new teams this season. Snell has struggled so far, and tonight will be Montgomery's debut with Arizona. Pace of play continues this year to keep games shorter. In 2022, only 11% of 9-inning Major League Baseball games were done in 2 hours, 40 minutes or less. That jumped to 52% last year with the introduction of the pitch clock. You know, the clock is a little tighter this year, so that number's jumped up to 59% so far. Injuries have been quite numerous this year, all around the league, especially among pitchers. But one big name returns tonight, and that is Justin Verlander with the Houston Astros. After a couple of starts in the minors, he'll face off with the Washington Nationals tonight. Nats are not good, so even if he doesn't bring his best stuff, I think Justin Verlander will be all right tonight. Now back to the Cubs, 11-7 heading into this afternoon's action. They're 5-1 at home as they open up a 7-game homestand, a 4-game series this weekend with the Marlins. Jameson Taillon making his season debut for the Cubs. A.J. Puck on the mound for the Marlins, 2:20 Eastern on Marquee Sports Network. MLB Network will have it too. Craig Counsell shaking up the lineup today for the Cubs. Nico Hoerner will be leading off. Patrick Wisdom makes his season debut starting in right field, batting second. Cody Bellinger off to a slow start, but remains in the 3rd spot. Christopher Morel at DH, batting 4th, followed by Dansby Swanson and Ian Happ, who got his first home run of the year a couple days ago. Garrett Cooper gets the start at 1st, Nick Madrigal at 3rd, and rounding out the lineup behind the plate is Miguel Amaya. Interesting to not mention Michael Busch. He's the Cubs' best hitter so far this year. He is not in the lineup today. Yesterday was a rainout, so it's not like Busch needs another day of rest. I'm guessing it has something to do with splits or stats, matchup. We haven't heard of anything else that it could be at this point. So perhaps he'll be an in-game substitution once the Marlins go to the bullpen this afternoon. Hoping Taillon looks good in his season debut, especially want to preserve the bullpen as best as possible with a split doubleheader tomorrow. Believe we'll see Shota Imanaga and Javier Assad getting the start for the Cubs in those 2 games tomorrow. I say I believe because we're not currently seeing who's starting yet. Cubs.com currently showing TBD for the 2 games, but Kyle Hendricks is listed as the starter on Sunday. Monday, an off day, then the Cubs host the Astros for a 3-game midweek series next week. Be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and more. Tell a friend too to stay in the know with all things Chicago Cubs in under 10 minutes. This is the Bricks and Bleachers Podcast.